What's going on, everybody? I want to touch on a topic today. I think this is actually going to be a really good one. Time and time again, you hear when firearms are released, especially newer generation firearms, you hear a common saying, and that is the Glock Killer. So when you see new videos released, a good example is like something like the CZ-P10C. When that was released, you see all these videos, CZ-P10C, is this the end of Glock? Or Beretta APX, Glock is done for. Or SIG P320, the end of Glock. You hear all these videos in the titles and things like that, and generally the saying is the Glock Killer. Every time a new firearm like these are released, they're compared against the Glock. So I want to touch on that today. So I'm going to do my best to answer the undying question. So what is the Glock Killer? Or is there even a Glock Killer? So I'm going to hit you with a cold hard reality. This is probably going to irk some people. It's going to piss some people off. But I'm going to hit you with the cold hard truth. What is the Glock Killer? The Glock Killer itself is clickbait. It's an attempt to get people to click on the video, get them to like it, watch it, and they can get those views, get that ad revenue, get you to look at their Patreon, things like that. The Glock Killer itself is not any one specific gun. The Glock Killer is a video title. That's just the cold hard reality of the situation. Now, if we look at Glocks, this specific Glock is a Glock 22 RTF2. It's an older generation, but the general style of the pistol has remained the same from generations 1 to generation 5, as well as the 19X. So this is more of a base comparison of the Glock itself. We're not looking at the future generation Glocks. I'm just going to offer a couple points just to kind of talk about, the Glock versus its competitors. So up front here, I've got 3 of what I personally consider to be Glock's main competition. So to the right, we've got a Smith & Wesson M2.0. To the left, we've got a Beretta APX. Up top, you got a SIG P320. Now, the reason I've picked these 3 pistols is because it's the only 3 other striker fire pistols I own, aside from this Glock. But these are the main 3 that I feel are, in general, better options than a Glock. So if we, I'm going to pick the 2.0 here just for starters. If we look at the Smith & Wesson M2.0, in general, even compared to a Generation 5 or the 19X, this is a better pistol. Ergonomically, the grip is far superior to a Glock. It's not bricky, it's not bulky. Even with the Generation 4, Generation 5 Glocks with their adjustable back straps, the gun itself still feels like you're grabbing onto a 2x4, even with the smallest back strap. They're not that ergonomic compared to modern day options. And the most common complaint with people who don't like Glocks is just the angle of the grip. When you grab onto it and line the sights up, you're at a very funny angle compared to other pistols. Something like the Smith & Wesson M2.0, like I said, the grip is one of the biggest features that makes it, in my opinion, better than a Glock. The adjustable back straps and side straps. Now, the Glocks themselves, they do have an adjustable back strap. But the problem is the back straps on Glocks, even the Generation 5s, only adjusts the back strap. It doesn't adjust the palm swell. It doesn't adjust the actual grip size. It only adjusts the length of pull on the gun itself. Next up, one of the simple ones. Now, I don't believe in this. I'm just going to say this outright. Is people will talk about the looks. How a Glock is such just a plain Jane looking gun. It's got nothing fancy going for it. To me personally, that's a load of shit. It doesn't have to look good to work good. That's just the cold hard reality. So now when you look at other guns like the APX, this M2.0, these are gorgeous pistols to look at. I really enjoy just the looks of these guns. Now, one of the biggest things, especially you see about Glocks, and even diehard Glock guys, is the sights. Now the sights are combat sights. They're effective. They will get the job done. They're not going to wow you. But for someone like me, I fucking hate Glock sights. They're atrocious. Now, when you look at modern day options, so the question is why do guns like these come out and the set standard is always compared to against a Glock? Well, the simplest answer is Glock set the standard. Regardless of how you feel about a Glock is the set standard for a polymer striker-fired pistol. It was the first pistol, polymer style pistol, to hit the market and just hit it hard and be just wildly successful. Like I said, you can't really debate that or argue it. Glock set the standard for the polymer pistol, and every single manufacturer had to step up their game to catch up to Glock. Smith & Wesson originally dominated the law enforcement market with their revolvers, but when Glock came in, they looked at a pistol like these. They were simple, and above all, they were cheap. They were very cheap to produce. They're very cheap for law enforcement to buy. They're reliable, and they hold more than 6 shots. Why in God's name would you not adopt this? So companies like Smith & Wesson, Beretta, and Sig Sauer really had to step up their game to catch up to Glock and try and get themselves back into the market, because aside from the top features of the Glock, its reliability, its price, is its weight. It's a very light pistol. Carrying one of these fully loaded, it's not that heavy. Compared to, let's say, a fully loaded Smith & Wesson revolver or a Beretta 92, a Sig Sauer P320, or sorry, P226. They're heavy pistols. So Glock, in general, just they set the standard. Now, if we look at these modern day options, even compared to the Glock Generation 5s, these are better pistols. Price-wise, the Beretta APX, the Smith & Wesson 2.0, and the Sig P320 in general, at least here in Canada, mind you, are cheaper than a Glock. The average Generation 5 Glock here in Canada is running around $750, whereas the APX, the P320, and the Smith & Wesson 2.0 are all under $700. You can find the APXs here in Canada for $600. You can find these for $550. You can find these for $620. Overall, they're over $100 cheaper than a Glock. So now you got to look at the modern day alternatives. Is when you look at things like the P320, these pistols, in general, they are better than a Glock. So the question you got to ask is, why is Glock still have its name? Why is Glock still being adopted over these pistols? Now, I'm not going to touch on the elephant in the room, which was the U.S. military contract, why SIG beat them. Simplest answer, they were cheaper. If you don't like that, then that's just too bad. So, but aside from that, if you look at law enforcement agencies, things like that, why are they still adopting Glocks over the APX, the M&P, the SIG, the CZ P10C? Why are they still adopting these pistols or the Glocks over these? Well, Glock still has one thing going for it, regardless of how you feel about it, and that's their reputation. Glocks, unlike any of these 3 pistols here, have a set track record. We know for a fact that these pistols will last. You can put tens of thousands of rounds through them, and they will keep on running. You do not need to maintenance them that much. They do not need a lot of lubricant. They do not need a lot of cleaning to keep these bad boys running. They will run, and they will run good. These pistols you see before you don't have the track record that the Glock does. The Smith & Wesson MP, the Generation 1 specifically, actually has a very solid track record. But the problem is Glock's track record is longer, and it's more proven. So when you look at modern day alternatives, they just don't have the track record that a Glock has. Now, while they are catching up, and I honestly believe that Glock has hit a point of stagnation. They are becoming stagnant. If you look at the Generation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 19X, what do they do that previous generations don't? Now, I saw a thing where when Glock released the Generation 5, they got rid of the finger grooves, as many of you know, and they called that revolutionary. What? There's nothing revolutionary. Not for hundreds of years, guns have had no finger grooves. Finger grooves, there's nothing revolutionary about finger grooves. Some guns have them, some guns don't. Some people prefer them, some people don't. Taking those off, there's nothing revolutionary about that. Adding on the Generation 5, this is actually a common complaint where they had a big cutout up here. They call that revolutionary, which that's on the Generation 2s, mind you. There's nothing new about the new Glocks. Glock is running to the point where they are pretty much surviving on their reputation. Now, as of right now, yeah, that's lasting. But the problem is when guns like these really start to get a proven track record, where they really start to shine when it comes to reliability, ergonomics, and endurance for how long they can last, the P320 is going to be the real trial, because this bad boy here is now in the hands of the U.S. military. So you're going to see very quickly how effective and long-lasting these guns are. Now, if these do last as long as SIG claims they can, I'm going to be honest, Glock should be worried. Glock has failed to innovate in the modern day market. The reason they still last and they still are who they are is because of their name. Now, several years down the road, is that going to last? I don't believe so. I believe that the P320, the Smith & Wesson 2.0, the APX, and some of the other competitors out there will far exceed Glock in pretty much every category. Glock has gotten to the point where they're not that good of a gun. They're the Honda Civic of the gun world. They will get the job done. They're not going to look good doing it. They're not going to be overly great at it, but they will do it, and they will do it every time. These modern day guns here, once they get their track record, I think Glock is going to be in a lot of trouble. I personally do. If Glock, down the road decides to release a Generation 6, I think they should do something different and not produce a Glock. I think they should go way outside of what they've done, and they need to get back on the innovation train. Because if you look at the M2.0, the P320, and the APX, with their modular chassis system, as well as their backstrap system, their ability to go from compacts to full size, everything like that, and everything in between, Glock just can't do that. So I could see Glock eventually getting on the train of the modular chassis system like the P320 has and the APX has. I can see them getting into that, but the problem is Beretta and SIG are already doing it. So Glock at this point would not be innovating. There'd be nothing revolutionary about it. So right now as it stands, I think the P320 is Glock's biggest danger. I really do. I think that if SIG keeps innovating and producing the way they are, especially if you look at things like the P365, Glock's in trouble. But I'm curious what you think. What do you all think about this? Do you think that Glock's in trouble? Do you think that even 20, 30 years down the road, they're going to be fine? Or do you think Glock's going to become even more stagnant than they already are and lose the market to competitors like Beretta, Smith & Wesson, and SIG? What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks everybody for watching, and I will see y'all next time.